Hello and welcome to the Yes Mindset Mastermind. I'm Leslie and this is Matt with LMNTL. So thank you so much for being here. If you're catching this on a replay, we hope that you're doing something enjoyable, maybe going for a walk and listening, or if you're sitting and watching, thank you so much for taking the time. If you have any thoughts or questions as you listen or watch, or anything you want to talk to us about after we're done, please feel free to reach out to us by email, or through the Elemental community or on social media, whatever works best for you. So we were going to start, and we have some notes down here, so I'm actually going to put them up here so I can see them as well.
Yeah, great.
So the reason that we decided to host this mastermind tonight on this Yes Mindset is because it's something that just kind of, for me, happened this summer whenever we accepted an invitation to do a 330-mile bike ride. And it was this concept of just believing in myself by default and just saying yes, and without even thinking about it or worrying or just thinking about any of the details at all. I was just in. And so we wanted to kind of talk about what that experience was like and how it's been beneficial, how it served us, and how we're doing the work to live in this yes mindset whenever we're in this world where believing in ourselves by default is not the thing, right? Mm-hmm. So that's why we're here tonight. And I think Matt's going to kind of talk a little bit more about why the yes mindset is important to us.
Yeah, and I might also say too that the yes mindset sort of manifests differently in the two of us. And so throughout this evening, and telling stories and talking through the yes mindset and how it comes to fruition in both of us, we'll share how we both came to it from different ways, but then we both still kind of live through that yes mindset in different ways. And the yes mindset really came to me really powerfully from a basic idea of yes through reading Baron Baptiste's book. And he talks about being a yes, right? And Baron Baptiste is the founder of Power Yoga, and Leslie teaches Power Yoga. I've read some of the books, and one of the powerful teachings was being a yes. And I remember a moment of reading his book and being in trying to do something as simple as a forward fold, and being tight in my hips and my hamstrings. And one day while practicing, leaning in and feeling like, man, I can't do this. Like I should be able to lean forward. And I remembered that teaching and remembered just to be a yes. And I just said, I can do this. I'm a yes. And just repeated that to myself. And in that time, it opened me up. It changed my energy. And before I knew it, I was leaning forward, and I wasn't like touching my nose to my shins or anything like that, but I had leaned in way further than I really thought was possible. And so that was a really powerful way of seeing how sometimes just imagining a yes, or being a yes, or thinking about a yes can transform you even physically. So I would encourage everyone to, you can do it now, and it's even, I'll even kind of say it now, is just saying yes. Just even in thinking about just like closing your eyes and saying yes, and seeing how that feels to you to say yes, and then say no, and feel like how restrictive, that is. And we would never tell anyone to say yes to everything or say no to everything, but there's an energetic difference between the two, and they're contained within each other. And, we want to draw attention to that. So, and we also believe that in every yes, whenever you do say yes to something, you're saying no to a lot of other things. There's a no contained in a yes, just as there's a yes contained in every no. So if you say no, you're saying yes to the possibility of a lot of other things, which is why we also say, before we go into this, is that it's really important, and why we dedicate ourselves to self-knowledge and to constantly doing the work of self-discovery and understanding who we are deep down inside, so that we can bring that yes, and we know we can do hard things whenever we know that they're meant for us, right? So we just want to say that from the very beginning, that that's a really big part of yes mindset, is to be doing the work to ground within yourself and to understand yourself.
Yeah, and I think a good segue into the next thing that we wanted to talk about, which was how this invitation for the bike ride, it was called the vicious cycle, how that came about, is this word. And it's, the retreat that we were just at a couple of months ago, this word came up a lot. It comes up a lot in our day-to-day life, but it's intentionality and intentional. That is, whatever your intentions are and whatever it is that you're trying to manifest, however you want to be, bringing that yes mindset to it is an intentional act. It's an intentional energy. And that is something I think that it has been really paramount for us in the way that our lives have unfolded, especially the last year or so, because that kind of takes us to that unexpected invitation.
Yeah.
To do the vicious cycle ride. So a little bit of backstory about us, just from this last year, I guess, but I feel like we've lived a few lives just in a 12-month period.
Yeah.
But about this time last year, so right now is December and we're right in the middle of the holiday season. And around this time last year, when the world is kind of slowing down, we were really deep diving into what we wanted the following year to be like. And that looked like creating this business plan and like life plan, basically. And, one of the things that emerged in that was buying a van. And the van seemed like the most frivolous thing in the plan. And it was something that we both had wanted, both had talked about. Fast forward a couple of months and a couple of like inquiries and just a lot of research later, we were presented with an opportunity to purchase a van. And we said yes to that. And like many things in our lives, that time was did not look fruitful for a yes, right? There are a lot of reasons why we shouldn't have done it, why we couldn't have done it. And we decided that, that was something that we needed to do. So the van in and of itself has been this thing in our lives that, we had an idea of what it would be used for and how it would affect us. And what we've learned with the van is that our yes to that has kind of made us appear like yes people, like people who will do things, people who are open to these new experiences and opportunities. And so people have approached us and asked us to do things they wouldn't have otherwise, because they think that we'll be the type of people that might say yes. And so we're asked to do things even that take us away from the van. And so that kind of leads us into how we were invited to do this vicious cycle ride. I'll let you kind of tell a little bit more of the story from here.
Well, yeah. So the folks at Grin advertising agency and marketing agency and they're in Evansville and Chicago, they have done this ride before, and they invite people to come on the ride, and it's a long ride, and it's
330 miles over 4 days.
Over 4 days, yeah. So it's not a commitment, that's to be taken lightly. And and the van did attract attention and created a conversation with Hannah and Phil Mowry, who organized the ride. And so in that conversation about the van and about what we were doing, it really brought us into this invitation to do the ride. And I have been cycling for years and have did a 100-mile ride with this group several years ago. And when they originally asked us to do it, and we were sitting on Zoom with Hannah, my initial response was, "Oh, I'm not." It was kind of a no. It was definitely what I would call a reluctant yes, which is sort of like bordering on no. And it was really interesting because my initial no, I was being limited, right, by my experience. I had done a 100-mile ride, and that was really hard. And I'm thinking, well, this is going to be like 3 times that. And I was in my mind, I had come up with all of these ways that it wouldn't work, or that it couldn't work, or that it would be too hard, especially in light of the fact that Leslie actually didn't own a road bike. And
well, yeah, and I mean that's kind of like that's his experience answering the question, right? To the invitation. And so for me, whenever Hannah posed this question, I was just immediately said, yeah, we're in.
Yeah.
What are the dates? And because I wanted to check the calendar just to make sure. I mean, we didn't have a whole lot planned for the rest of the year. We're both self-employed, and we have been for years, and we're able to kind of do what it is that we really want, and to create our schedule. And I didn't have a bike. Yeah. I didn't think about, when I said yes, I literally did not think about the fact that I didn't have a bike, that I didn't cycle, that I didn't have any cycling clothes. I didn't have none of it. And, I just immediately said yes. And that's kind of what's prompted this conversation, right? And what's prompted this conversation here right now, but also just in our lives, this mindset. Like, what was it about being asked that question in that season of my life that I just automatically defaulted to being like, yeah, I can do that. I'm going to make that work. I'd always said I wanted to ride my bike across the country, and I'm not entirely sure where that came from, because again, I didn't have a bike and I didn't cycle, and I wasn't with people who were like wanting to do something like that for real, And so it's just been this interesting thing, and seeing how that manifested over the next several months up until actually completing the ride was just a really phenomenal, in hindsight, experience of seeing what I'm capable of when I just genuinely believe I can do something, especially when I have no, reason to believe so, other than just I can do this. Yeah. I'm going to do this.
Yeah. And that's the beauty of the beginner mindset. Right? And that's one of those things, is that doing a ride like this is hard enough in reality. But whenever you've built up these stories like I had about how hard this is going to be, and not having the equipment and things like that, it can limit you from having an experience that you're totally capable of, that can open up all kinds of beautiful experiences. And that's why I'm currently reading a book called Hiking with Nietzsche, that's about the German philosopher Nietzsche, by John Kag. It's a beautiful book. And in the book, he talks about the Nietzsche talking about the mindset of the child. And really, in my mind, it's the adult. It's all the things, all of that sort of learned knowledge about, don't do this. No, that's dangerous. You can't do this. You don't have the right training. You don't have the right, any of that.
What, and did he call it the sacred yes?
The sacred yes. Yes. Yeah. The child gives voice to the sacred yes, that a child, and John Kag calls it a rare moment of permission in the restrictive adult life. And, that he goes on to say that children learn to be afraid, ashamed, closed off from the adult world. Children are full of natural curiosity, bravery, shamelessness, and this beautiful sort of shamelessness, and a constant wonder and awe of what they can do and what's possible in life. And we're constantly reminded of that when we see children, or see people that are doing something for the first time. They don't limit themselves with that fear of that knowledge, right? So I was exhibiting that class A sort of adult experience. This is very hard. We can't do this. And Leslie was bringing that energy of, yeah, we can do this. I believe in us. We can do it. And really kind of that was contagious for me, and brought me around. Yeah.
And even within minutes, because we were on the call with Hannah, she asked, I said yes, and Matt's like, oh, let's think about it. Within minutes, Hannah said, oh, I have a bike you can borrow. So, within that same time period, one of the biggest problems was solved. And we happened to be going up to Chicago, and were able to get the bike so that she let me use it to train with for 4, 5, 6, I don't know, however many months it was, and use it to ride on the actual ride itself. So it was just this incredible gift that I felt given to me because I said yes, and it was something I really wanted to do as well. That's important to note. just saying yes to something that you're lukewarm about, or that you're just not really sure, because that's real too,
Mm-hmm.
but for some reason in my gut, and that's one thing I've learned over the years, is just to listen to whatever my intuition, my gut is telling me in any situation. And when I'm just a big like yes immediately, I want to go with that,
Mm-hmm.
so yeah, that was an immediate opportunity that I think kind of happened. So.
Yeah, yeah. In a classic kind of example of not letting those limiting beliefs, because a lot of people would say, well, you can't ride that far on a borrowed bike that doesn't fit you properly, that you can't ride without proper clips. And there's all these, cycling can be a very difficult to enter and expensive,
Yeah, and I've
endeavor.
never
And
clipped in.
mhm,
I didn't have the shoes. The pedals were the clip-in pedals.
mhm.
Fast forward to the end. I like to fast forward to the end of stories a
Yeah,
lot.
yeah,
Just our storytelling styles are a little different, but
yeah,
I'm gonna
yeah,
go
go.
here. But the pedals, so I actually ended up buying the shoes to clip in, and I was going to practice, and I just never did. And so by the time the ride came along, I rode the whole way with the clip-in pedals and my like old running shoes
Hmm.
the whole time.
Yeah,
And I didn't know any different. And some people were like, "Oh my gosh, you can't do that. How are you going to do that?" And I'm like,
hmm,
"Well, I don't know any different. And this is how I've trained, and it doesn't bother me. Like,
yeah,
it's fine."
yeah.
And I don't actually, even now, I don't even know if I want to clip in.
Hmm,
I enjoy not being clipped in.
hmm.
And yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. And you don't need any of that stuff to do it. You can
yeah,
just go. You can just get on the bike and you can believe in yourself and you can do it.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there were several different things, we were talking about this before we got on here, about how, like, Matt was centering this idea of the thinking mind making excuses for all these things.
Hmm.
And, we experienced, and I experienced a lot of that too. It wasn't just that I said yes and then everything was perfect. Like,
Hmm.
that wasn't the way. Like, I was scared of a lot of things,
Hmm.
as always, scared of the wrong things. I find that I'm often scared of the wrong things when I like fixate on something to be scared of. I get
Yeah.
to the experience and then I'm like, oh, that's not a big deal. And someone else says something and I'm like, oh shoot, why wasn't I scared of that?
Yeah. Yeah.
And usually animal related,
Yeah.
I would say,
Hmm.
as in this case too.
Yeah. Right.
Um, but the mindset of just like knowing that we had committed to this thing, we wanted to be there, we were compassionate with ourselves, knowing that, we were wanting to do the entire ride, but knew that if something happened, we could sit out any part of it that we needed to.
Hmm.
And we were okay with that.
Hmm.
So like anything that we encountered along the way with training, um, anything, it just gave us this kind of knowing that we'd be okay, even
Hmm.
in the midst of what we were scared about and what our thinking minds were telling us that we couldn't do, or that didn't make sense, or,
Hmm.
any of those things.
Yeah. And I think we were also willing to fail. And
Oh yeah.
yeah, and when and I'll be more clear about fail here in a minute, but like with we are coaches. We believe that people who want to coach or want to do anything need to engage in that themselves. And we have several coaches, we have mentors and coaches that we work with. And one of our coaches, Alex Garcia, who's an amazing athlete and has overcome a lot of obstacles and done amazing things in his particular sports. Early on when we started to work with him, very much encouraged us to go big. He said, you guys need to go big. You need to say yes to bigger things, because when you do big things, you'll be surprised. You'll be surprised at what you can do. You'll learn a lot about yourself, and you'll be around your people, the type of people that you belong with, that you will feel a sense of belonging with, that don't limit you. And when you show up in those spaces, that's exactly what happens, and you're sort of inspired by that. And I think and to grow and to expand, because we've faced a lot of adversity in this ride, and facing that adversity and facing those difficult times create space for more powerful transformation, or for you to learn who you are. Because when you take on a ride like us, that is, for me, 3 times longer than I've ever done, and for Leslie, never even attempting anything quite like this, that even if you did half of it, even if you just showed up and just gave it everything, that's not a failure. That's a win. And you have a choice to define what failure is, right? We can learn from our failures, or we can show up and know that just showing up and making the attempt and going and getting out there and doing it and being around people that are doing big things bring you alive, right? And give you a sense of purpose and bring that to you. And that's exactly what happened for us, that we when you sign up for something like this, or you do something that's very much in your wheelhouse that you desire to do, it's just something that we really wanted to do, and it's big, right? You can guarantee that everyone that shows up alongside of you is going to be also in, one of your people. Is going to be someone who's going to support you, who's going to be with you, because that's the only type of people that sign up for these sort of things. And that's where you find out what you're made of, and you find out what it feels like to be in a group, of people that are all kind of like have the same goal and want to do something, challenging, and want to do something challenging, even in this case, in support of others, right? Because this was a fundraising ride, and this was something that we did bring attention to raising money for. So this was one of those things that together we all came together and accomplished something really, really amazing that we could all do together. And you just form relationships, and you're around people that really bring you alive, really push you to be your best, and really kind of push you beyond limits that you thought you had.
Yeah. And, for us, what we're learning is that endurance, and specifically endurance sport, is where we find that space to be with those kinds of people and that kind of energy. And we're learning how to find that in non-endurance ways too, right? Because you don't have to ride your bike 330 miles. You don't have to be into ultra marathons. You don't have to do any of these like really big things to find that energy and to find your people, right? But the same energy that we experienced doing this big thing with these people is accessible, we believe, in other ways. And that's the point of it too, right? Is when you're saying yes to something for yourself that is going to serve you, that you need, that you want, and you find people that are supportive of you in that yes, the people that are saying yes to themselves too.
Yes.
There's good one. there's just this new space. There's this new potential. There's this, I don't know, it's you're able to believe in yourself. And what can't you accomplish when you believe in yourself, truly, Yeah. And I was just thinking, we most recently just did a trail ultra marathon where we were testing, really. I mean, I literally over Thanksgiving, end of November, we got an email for this trail ultra marathon. And we usually run like maybe in between 4 and 6 miles, typically like once-ish a week, if that, and on all trails. And we got this email for this race, this ultra marathon. They had an option for a 10 miler or 50K, which is like 31 miles. They also had a 50 miler, but that wasn't really in the question. Like that wasn't an option. Yeah. So I'm like, hey, Matt, I have this theory. I think that with a yes mindset, we can do this ultra marathon. We also do a lot of yoga, probably like close to 10-ish hours of yoga a week. We do a lot of restorative, and we also do a lot of hot yoga, power yoga. And so it's very cardiovascular, and have been practicing for long enough to where I know that we're getting a lot of strength from that. And so I'm saying all of that because we have a fitness foundation to where we could be in a place to say like, hey, what you want to run an ultra marathon? Right. But we were not trained for an ultra marathon. It was this theory of like, I think that with my mindset and with this like base level of fitness and movement that we maintain, I think it's possible to run 30 miles. And I think it's possible to do it in just a few weeks.
With about 5,000 feet of elevation.
Yes, throughout the entire course.
Yeah.
So we went into it with this yes mindset. our agreement with each other was that we wanted to finish it, but that wasn't the important thing. The important thing was to go, believe that we could do it, and just go as far as our bodies would let us. So if our bodies were telling us, don't go further, if our bodies were, which they will, but there's a difference between being injured and just being in the pain of like going that far or going through that extreme kind of experience. And so that was our goal, right? To do this thing, knowing that we could, knowing that there were no expectations of what it looked like, right? I say miraculously because I was a yes mindset, but I was struggling so hard that before we got to the 10-mile mark, I was like, oh, I don't know about this. My sweet body is screaming, but I wasn't hurt, and I knew it. And I knew that I was capable of it, and I knew I could just slow down. We came in, I think just a few, there were 66 people who did it, and we came in 62nd and 63rd place. So we were almost last.
Yeah.
And my run looked like a kind of a walk, I guess. And Matt's legs are longer than mine too. So I can be I'm running and I'm just giving it all I can. I just do not gain any distance on him. He's just walking, you know what I mean? But we did it. And it was with this mindset. It was knowing that we could, and it was knowing that if we didn't do the whole thing, that was okay too. So, excuse me, I'm gonna sneeze. Excuse me. Excuse me again. It looked like I was dabbing. I think I got that out. But anyway, so that was another challenge that we did just, after the bike ride, because I don't know, that's where I find access to that space. And I've always found access through physical movement, but it's something that we're working to apply in our day-to-day life is this yes mindset, believing in ourselves. Excuse me. And rewiring those things that tell us we can't do something. Do you ever feel that way where you want to do something new, and even without thinking about it, there's just this response within you that comes up that's oh no, I can't do that. Right? Yeah,
I don't have the time. I don't have I don't have the resources. I can't do. Yeah, right.
Yeah. I mean, have any of you ever experienced that, right? I know I can think of tons of times and things when I've done that. And I'm at a point in my life where I don't want to respond on autopilot. No. Without even thinking about, is this something I really want to do? Without even giving my gut the opportunity to say yes, big yes to this.
When you're in a no mindset, and then that no energy, you're moving slower, you're stagnant, and life is coming at you, right? So you have all these things coming at you, and it's no, 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 no. But when you say yes, and you say big yeses to what you believe and what you need and what brings you alive and what brings you alive in this life, you're in motion and you're moving, and the no's aren't there. You know what I mean? They're just they don't even have time to catch up to you, and that's the thing. We're talking about doing these, big bike rides and doing these ultra marathons, and that may not be your thing, but what's your thing? What is it about you? What do you love? What is something that you've done in your life, or a time in your life, a place that you've been emotionally or physically, or a task that you've done, or something that you've participated in that you just really felt deep down inside, I really love it here. This brings me alive. This touches me in a deep place. And then what can you do to say yes to that thing, right? Leslie and I, we've created guided discovery, which those of you in our community have seen our guided discovery and our coaching and what we're doing, and about that work. But we've done that work ourselves, so we've determined these things. We know how we want to live, what brings us alive, and we want to go after that. We want to say yes to those things, and when we say yes to those things, we end up around more people who are saying yes to those same things, and then more opportunities present themselves to say yes to those things. And then it just you get into a rhythm and a flow state of saying yes and being presented opportunities that give you that alive feeling that where you know you're really living life, you're doing what you were meant to do, what you were called to do on this world.
Yeah, and I think like even following that, yes, what we're learning is that, you know, you're not reaching these places or getting things, or it's not about saying yes to a certain result or outcome necessarily. It's creating space for what's meant for you, because when we've been saying yes, you know, we have this vision of what we want and how we want to be and how we want to feel. And so what that ends up looking like a lot of times is way different than what we originally said maybe we thought it looked like. And that's beautiful. And it allows us to even change our mind and to reevaluate what we're doing and what we want, and to continue down this yes path.
Yeah. And one of the things that we've experienced in our lives professionally and our personal lives has been when we do live in that yes mindset, when we are sometimes like a yes can kind of feel like a no. Like if you're trying to force something in your life, or if you're not ready for something, or something isn't quite right and you're grasping at it, or you're trying too hard to get it, it can be elusive. And sometimes that's one of those like you think you're saying yes to it, but you're kind of like not ready for it and you're grabbing at it, right? And one of the really beautiful things that happened for us when we decided to sign up for this ride, we were also planning, Leslie mentioned a retreat earlier. We were planning our first ever retreat in North Carolina, and it's the first time we've ever done this, and we were, you know, we had a lot of fear and nerves around it, and we were really working, you know, maybe a little bit too hard and trying to kind of force getting the word out and getting people to sign up. And we went a long time and people weren't signing up, and we were, you know, nervous about it, and we were scared that it was going to be a failure, and that we had invested all these time and resources into it. And really popular wisdom, right, or that adult mind, you know, would have told us that at that time we needed to be more focused on that retreat. We needed to be more like trying harder. But when this opportunity came to say yes to us and to something, and we were like, we've got to do this. It seems like it's against popular wisdom to do it at this time. And we did it anyway. And as soon as we let go of that and we went on this ride and we surrendered to this beautiful experience and pushed ourselves and focused and really brought alive with these beautiful people and this amazing experience, during that time, we got our first 2 signups for the retreat. And we don't think that that's coincidental. You know what I mean? That doing that thing and creating that energy and that flow opened up to 2 people that we've never met in our lives to open up to us and join us on the retreat. And the retreat ended up being an amazing success, even though we did take that time to do that. And these people crossed our paths, and we took that momentum, you know, that doing big things momentum from the ride and the confidence that we built into the retreat, and had an amazing experience. And maybe we'll do a mastermind on the retreat sometime too.
But even like them signing up for that at the time that they did as well, I think was on like maybe day 2 or day 3. I can't remember which morning, but you know, day 2 and day 3 of that ride are pretty tough because you're like just right in the middle of it. And it's after the first day, for me anyways, I realized like, oh my gosh, like this is a long way. And the first day was the shortest distance. And so I'm like, woof. Okay. And getting the message that someone had signed up for the retreat, they were saying yes to themselves. And I could feel the energy of that yes too, because we know what it's like to sign up for those things. We know what it's like to commit to something. We know what it's like to invest in ourselves with our time, money, energy, resources. And we could feel that from that person. And we didn't know we didn't know these 2 people, right? And so that was such a beautiful thing for us to experience, was just receiving their yes energy whenever we were in the middle of this experience and feeling kind of like, I don't know, like, what is it? The word, like, it was daunting, right? So
yeah. And then those people have impacted us in beautiful ways. And, you know, we would have never done, and once they signed up, then it got the ball rolling, and then we kind of surrendered to that, and then we ended up filling all the spots and having an amazing experience. So, and again, we use that as an example from our lives of going big, saying yes, doing things that scare us, but doing them in a way that is directly, and as Leslie said, intentionally in alignment with our values and our true north, and our, the work that we've done to know where we're going and what we want out of life and what brings us alive. And then, and that energy just flows when you get into that mindset of yes, yes, yes. So these are the things. So like, we would encourage you again, out there listening to this, to think about those things, and if there's something that's on your mind, or something that you want to do, email us, reach out to us, join the community, let us be your sounding board, let us be the space. We're all about safe spaces of transformation, and walking alongside people in our community to live their biggest life, to live their most fulfilled life, their most abundant life. Because when you do get into that flow and say yes, the abundance and the fulfillment come.
Yeah, I often tell people, like, I try not to, just in life in general, I don't like to just give advice to people, right? If somebody wants to know my opinion, I'll tell them, but it's always with the lens of like, hey, this is my life experience, this is what I might do, but that in mind, I also tell people, like, if you need to make a big decision and you feel yourself kind of wanting to do something that seems maybe a little like crazy, or maybe a little like not what someone would traditionally advise, like, we're your people.
Yeah.
So if you have this dream that's in the back of your mind that you're like, oh, I don't know, like I've shared this with a few people and they're kind of like, no, that would never work. But you still have this like little thing inside of you that's like, I think it could. Like, let us know.
Yeah.
We're rooting for you. And we want you to be a yes for that, because you might try it and it might not work, but you're going to know. And there's this sense of, because we've tried a lot, we've been a yes for a lot of things that haven't worked out, and daily. And like, but then at the end of the day, I know, like, well, I tried that, and I'm better because of it. I'm different because of it. I'm transformed because of it. And even through those yeses, you learn what you want to say yes to, because you don't want to say yes to everything. Yeah. Like Matt said earlier, every yes is a no to something else. Every no is a yes to something else, So even if you want to say no to something, really think about what you're saying yes to instead. Like if someone invites you to dinner and you're like, God, I'm tired, I don't want to, like, no, I'm not going to go. Get excited about the yes of what's about to happen. Like, are you about to go watch Netflix in your pajamas under a cozy blanket? Like, yes.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
If that's what you need. Yeah. Yeah.
I need that often.
Yeah. Right.
I do.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think we've gone through the majority of what we kind of had in mind,
Yeah.
Thank you for being here with us and listening. And we have a lot of these things inside of us that we want to share. And to be honest, I think the last thing on our list, we were talking about like doing the best you can with what you have. And that's
right.
That's even what this is, right? Like, we would love to start a podcast, and that's kind of in our mind that we could do it, we might do it. But right now we don't have the tools and resources. And so as we build that, we also need to just like have a space for conversation. That's what this is.
Yeah.
So
in our first attempt.
Yeah, our first attempt. Yeah. This is our first time doing this in this way. We have Zoom, we have this platform where we can save everything. So I guess to kind of move towards a conclusion, Matt, did you have any other thoughts on yes mindset? Because I know you have.
No, I just want to reiterate, or I would just reiterate, no additional, but I would reiterate to ask yourself those questions. Ask yourself what brings you alive. Think about what it is in your life that has brought you alive in the past, and think about the right why can survive anyhow, right? And that if your why is strong, and you know what you want, and you know what feels right to you, we encourage you, if we're to reach out to us, like just reach out to us, join our community. It's free. and be around other people and the people that will support you and help you get to that place.
Yeah. And yeah. And this question, we'd written this down, like,
yeah.
What if you could believe in yourself by default? What if you could just believe in yourself? And I'm posing that question and also telling you that it's something I'm asking myself constantly, because I, more often than not, don't believe in myself. And so but I know it. And so that means I can do something about it. Right. And that's what we're working every day to do. And so what would you do if you just knew you could do it? Right. And what's stopping you from doing it?
Yeah, because a lot of times what's stopping you from doing it isn't real. It's real to you. I mean, it's definitely real in your mind, but the things that you're afraid of, the things that you think are holding you back when you make that decision and commit, really may not be.
Yeah. And sometimes I've also discovered too, I know I said I was going to wrap this up, but I just had another thought. Some of these things that we think that we want to do, we don't actually want to do them. Right. And like, running a marathon is a good example. Like, if you say I'm going to run a marathon, that you're just dreading the training every day, why are you doing it? Don't, like, if you're reading a book and you hate it, put it down, get rid of it. Why? Right. So be cognizant too of the things that you're saying yes to and why. Right. Even if you can believe in yourself, if you don't enjoy it and you don't want to, don't.
Yeah.
So
what do you really want to say yes to?
Yeah.
And are there things that when you say no to them, does it make really kind of like deaden you? When you say no, do you go, oh, like that's a sign, and those kind of things can build up and, and really add up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's a good point. All right.
Yeah.
So, I don't remember if we said this when we started, but this is a mastermind series. I think I did say that. So we're doing these,
emphasis on the series.
Yeah. And we're going to do these at different days and times, because ideally we'd love for people to join us live. If they can,
we love to be asked questions.
Questions and just, be in conversation. But more importantly, we want these to be available for people to listen and watch when and if they have time, right? So whenever it flows for you. But that being said, we're not going to have a set schedule for when we're doing this. It might be, I think we're aiming for like once or twice a month. I think the next one is in January. It'll be a vision mastermind. So one of our values is vision, our joint values. And so we'll be kind of talking about what that means and how it's manifested in our lives. Excuse me. The other thing that we have coming up is our speaker series. So our speaker series is going to be a conversation with different people that have agreed to come on and have a conversation with us about what it is that brings them alive and how they are living through that aliveness in their day-to-day life. And some of the people have said, like, I don't really know. And so we'll talk about that too, because not everyone does know what brings them alive, and that's okay. That's a starting point. So our first speaker series event is coming up on December 18th. It's a Sunday at 4 p.m. Central Time. And if you're in the community, you'll get a notice about 10 minutes before to log in. You don't have to sign up or anything. You can just go to your portal, the community portal, and go to products, and you'll see it there. It'll have a Zoom link. If you're not able to make it live, that's where you can access the recordings afterwards. And we'll also put everything on YouTube. Let's see. Oh, another important thing for the speaker series, if you'd like to be on the speaker series and just have a conversation with us, and we provide an outline, we provide, if you want to invite your audience, we also provide copy for you to send to people so that you can just edit and kind of fill in wherever you want. We have an application on our website for anybody who wants to, or you can send us an email, just let us know and we can send you the details. Those are also not set to a certain day or time, just kind of as people are available, and we'll just do them maybe once or twice a month as well. Also, I think the last piece of news is our Inner Ground retreat series for 2023. We have our first retreat ticket sales going live on Wednesday, December 21st, after our winter solstice meditation. And we'll have a reduced rate price available from December 21st through December 31st. So You can sign up for the pre-launch if you're interested. You'll be the first to know. Community members, if you would like to sign up, send us a message and we'll send you a coupon code for a reduced rate. If you know someone that wants to sign up for the community, it's free to join. And then they can get the reduced rate as well. Any questions, let us know. Any thoughts, let us know. And as you think about this yes mindset and what it is that you want to say yes to in your life, or what it is that you would do if you could just believe in yourself by default, like what that is, let us know. We would love to have a conversation with you about it. We would love to hear what's on your mind. And thank you so much for being here.
Yes, and please say yes to the elemental community. And if you do nothing else, sign up. It's free, and we would love to have you join us and receive more resources and communication and information from us as well. We would love to stay in touch with you and have you a part of our community. Yeah.
All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you.